Hey, what's up, you sexy bitches, and welcome to the Weekly D. Today I have Colleen Jolly on with me, and Colleen and I are talking about her amazing event that she runs called PoleCon. Some of you may or may not already know about PoleCon, but Pole Convention is one of the biggest pole events in the world. Truly, it's huge. They have such a diverse audience that goes to that event, and they have showcases from all different groups of pole dancers. It is an amazing event that you have to check out. And today, we talk about the event and we talk about all of the trials and tribulations of running such a massive event. This is an episode not to miss out on. So, without further ado, this is the Weekly D. Because, honey, if you ain't getting your D on the daily, you better at least be getting it once on the weekly.
If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the Weekly D. It's the Weekly D.
Colleen, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's so nice to speak to you. Obviously, I do you remember I was supposed to come to PoleCon, and then wasn't that when COVID all happened and stuff? Oh, it's so sad. So yeah, so it's nice to be able to actually properly be able to speak to you and kind of virtually meet you, if nothing else. How are things over in the US at the moment?
Hot.
Yeah, I mean, what is it there? So what is the temperature there at the minute?
I'm really bad at Celsius.
Oh, are you Fahrenheit? Go on, tell me in Fahrenheit and I'll work it out.
We're about 100 Fahrenheit right now, so
So
hot.
100 Fahrenheit,
Like 40 something.
37. Yeah, so well, it's high 30s, so it's pretty damn warm. Yeah. So we had 40, which I think is 104 in yours. And that was on the Monday and Tuesday last week. And honestly, we didn't do good. We didn't take it well. Let's put it that way. It was unbearable. But like we were just saying a minute ago, you have air conditioning in most places that you go in the US, right?
Oh, absolutely. So your problem is more like you're freezing, like running between like the car, store, whatever. So
I
yeah.
remember the first time I ever went to Vegas. I went to Vegas and I was like, oh, great. Let's look at the weather. So I looked on all the apps, obviously, and it said, oh, it's going to be like 35, 40. It's going to be so hot. I was like, wow, okay, I'm just going to take shorts, t-shirts, vest tops like I'm wearing now. And I got there, got into the hotels, and I was like, oh my God, I'm freezing cold. And I had nothing to put on. So I had to go and buy like a hoodie or something to keep me warm. You just forget really how well air conditioned the buildings are in the US.
Yeah. It's
It's pretty
intense.
good. So, the reason I obviously want to have you on today is because you run an awesome event called PoleCon, which everyone knows about, but actually lots of people maybe in the UK might not know about it. So I'd love for them to find out about it. And then who knows, maybe they can go and travel over to the US at some point and attend PoleCon. And obviously as well, I have a lot of people who follow me from Europe. So maybe some of our Europeans will be interested in going over to PoleCon, because am I correct in saying that PoleCon now is the only really, I mean, I don't know of any others, the only big, large scale pole convention. Is that right?
Certainly in the States, we're the only large scale pole convention.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of still a lot of competitions, but in terms of that convention style where you've got vendors and workshops and it's non-competitive, I think we are the only one now.
Yeah, okay. And so you don't have a competition there at the same time? No.
Nope.
Have
Mm-mm.
you ever considered it?
So the first year that I took over PoleCon, which was held in 2015, we did have a competition. And I just felt that we need a space that's non-competitive.
Agreed.
So that was the first, only, and last time that I will have a competition at PoleCon.
Right. Did you find that the competitive element just ruined the friendly vibe a little bit?
No, I still think it was good there, but I don't know. I feel like so I used to compete a lot, and competitions really stress me out. And I think it put limits sometimes on people's creativity.
Okay.
So I think it's just nice to have an environment. Like there's so many opportunities to compete, but there's so few opportunities to just show up and do your thing, that I think for me, it's important that PoleCon stay non-competitive.
Right. And so the actual event has been going how many years now? 6 maybe or more? Must
A
more.
million. It feels like a million. It's
Yeah,
a,
like because it's been going a long time, and I actually, do you know what I say when I say years? I don't know if you do this, but I always forget to include there's been 2 years of nothing. So, so I always forget that we've had those 2 years that were just completely wiped off, you know? So how many years has it? What year did it start?
so the first PoleCon was held in 2010 by the original founder. And then I took the event over in 2014. So there was no PoleCon that year. My first year was 2015. And so we've had 11 live PoleCons
Wow.
and 2 virtual PoleCons.
Oh, so you did a virtual. Nice. How did that go? Virtual. Would you ever do it again virtually or?
So the first year we did it in those missing years,
Yeah.
uh, 2020, it was really well received. A lot of people showed up. A lot of people seemed to really enjoy it. And then I ran it again in 2021 because we actually did hold a live PoleCon in 21. And the virtual wasn't as well received. So this year I am running another one. um, but I'm slimming it down quite a bit
Right.
because I think it's important for people who can't travel for various reasons, where, money, family, we're still having a pandemic, etc. It's nice to still have some opportunity to learn and grow together. So
Hmm.
there will be another virtual PoleCon in October.
Nice. And is that going to be? Oh, so October isn't when PoleCon normally is, no? Okay, so you're
Yeah.
not blending the two events into one. I didn't know whether maybe you were doing it as like having maybe cameras on site to record the actual class that was happening at the event. Had you considered anything like that?
I did. We run a live stream. So we ran a live stream for the showcases in the beginning, and then nobody seemed to watch it, so I stopped it, and then I
Right.
brought it back.
Okay.
so,
Oh, fair
um,
enough.
so we yeah, so we do a live stream for all the showcases, but it was just too hard and too complicated and too expensive to
Yeah.
do workshops. And I've taught, like a lot of us, a mix of, I'll have a virtual student and then I'll have in-person students, and that can get really challenging.
Right.
So
It's one of those
yeah,
things as well. The camera is going to be set up in one angle, but the teacher is
yeah.
never in one position because we're always going around different poles, aren't we? So, yeah, that's why I asked or asking because I just wondered how that would have worked on your end. Because I have thought about things like that. I've thought like, how can I make my events available to more people, like who just can't
Mhm.
attend live? But it won't be the same quality of experience. I feel like you can teach online and have it only for people online and they get 100% of you. But
Mhm.
it then means that if you're focusing on the online people, the people who are right there in front of you get less of your attention. So it's very hard to blend the two together for sure. Unless you're the type of person that really doesn't need much teaching, you're happy just to kind of be a background viewer, it would maybe work for you. But I think those
Mhm.
type of students are very few and far between. So what's your background? So you started pole first, obviously, before you started this event. So tell us about your background. How did your pole journey start?
So I don't have a movement background.
Okay.
I started polling in, oh God, now 2011,
Uh-huh.
just on a lark. A friend of mine said, "Hey, let's try this," and we tried it, and she was okay, and I sucked. I couldn't, I didn't have any grip strength, so I couldn't hold on to the pole. Everything just felt slippery. But I persevered.
Yeah.
And then I just, kept going and going and going because it was so challenging and interesting and different. And so, yeah, movement wise, I really don't have a movement background. And, business wise, like I came to the pole industry from a corporate background. I used to own my own visual communications company.
Okay.
We had Yeah, we had offices here in the States, and then I also had offices in the UK. So I used to do a lot of travel back and forth.
And you don't own this
Um,
company anymore?
no, I sold my shares to my business partners.
Okay. Do you and you were happy to just like leave that industry, or do you think you'd ever go back to it?
Um, it it's hard to have business partners. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So we hit some challenges, and the market that we were serving really changed quite a bit, and we were not all on the same page about how to pivot or when to pivot. So it was a good split, I think, for everybody. It was the right decision for me, and I still freelance for them. So
Okay. Oh, so it's all
yeah,
on good terms. So that's good.
yeah,
Nice. So, and how long were you in that industry for?
18 years.
Okay, so it was a long time. And you weren't doing any movement based, like no dance or anything during that time?
A little bit. So I, like, as a kid, I wasn't into sports or dance. None of
Same.
that stuff. That just wasn't wasn't my thing. And then I had a motorcycle accident when I was 19 years old. That was very serious.
Wow.
My right leg was shattered between my ankle and my knee. They were going to amputate. I was never going to walk again. Like all this stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of a lot to deal with as 19 years old and still in university. But after that, I mean, I persevered. That's sort of like my hashtag is I just keep going.
Yeah.
And I started random things, like when you start getting older, you start thinking like, oh, maybe I should get a gym membership or maybe I should do this and that. And I started taking up Bollywood dance,
Nice.
um, which again, I did on a lark. They had a workshop that was geared toward alumni from my university. And I went and thought, well, this is fun. If I got to work out, I might as well do something fun. So I started that. And then I met this friend who said, do you want to try pole dancing? And I was like, yeah, sure.
So whereabouts did your first pole class take place? Is the studio still going? Who was it? Anyone that I'd know?
No, the studio has closed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we see like a lot of studios kind of go through the cycle of opening and closing. So
Yeah.
um, I still talk to some folks. I still have a couple folks that are kind of from those days when we were there, and
That's cool.
the friend who started with me eventually lost interest, and I
Ah.
didn't.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
so she doesn't even pole anymore. How
no, she
funny.
doesn't pull.
Does she find it really funny to see you now, obviously, like running your own, like huge pole events, like worldwide pole events and stuff? Is she like, Colleen, this isn't what I had planned?
Yeah, it's definitely people who knew me before pole are very surprised about all of this because I'm really quite a prude, to be honest, for my own like personal feelings on things.
Yeah.
I'm very like, hey, if you all do you, like if this is something that you do to feel sexy and your ass is out and you love it, awesome, you know. But to
But for
me,
you, it's too
like
much.
I used to wear like that. I'm wearing a tank top is a big deal for me. Like I used to wear like 3/4 length sleeves, no shorts, like everything was covered. So my best friend always jokes because he follows my stories and stuff, and he's like, I have seen way more of you than I ever wanted to see. I'm
And
like,
is
I
where
know.
does that come from? Is that a religious thing? Are you religious or anything? Or has it come from like family background or like where does that sort of conservativeness come from, would you say?
I mean, some of it might be sort of religious family. I was raised in a Catholic household.
Okay.
Um, I think it's more just no one in my family is body positive.
All right, okay.
So there's just a lot of like anxiety around the body and things. So it's I've heard a lot of people say like you become the coach that you needed, or you become sometimes the parent that you needed.
Right.
So I always try to be very, especially in my words and my actions, very open and very body positive, because my baggage is my baggage. I want my students and the people who come to PoleCon, and, I want them to do what makes them feel good.
Yeah.
And, and not have anybody telling them like, oh, that's weird or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you do you, boo. Like,
Yeah,
that's
I think it's so good that you say that as well, because I mean, we get this a lot, especially in our industry, where people will say, like, for me, it could be anything like wearing the heels, it's a bit too much for me. And then people will get like quite angry about the fact that they've said that, but they're just saying that for them, it's not for them. It doesn't mean that they're against it. It just means for some people they're not, into that sort of thing. It doesn't mean they're anti that type of movement. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's good that you say things like that, and that you're really honest about it, because I feel like sometimes you can get some people who can be very fake in their approach, in the sense that they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I love everything, but actually they don't really. It's just they're too afraid to give a different opinion. I find that really intolerable. Actually, I hate it, but it's one of the many things I hate about the pole industry sometimes. But would you say that pole has really helped with your body positivity journey?
it's made me pay a lot of attention to it. I'm very good at compartmentalization.
Right.
So I'm very good at focusing and saying like, oh, I need to focus on my career, and like, I'm not going to worry about these other things, or I'm going to do this and not this. And so Pole has introduced me to so many different people. And I joke sometimes that I'm that guy from the movie Italian
Uh-huh.
Job, which I don't know if everybody's seen, but in the beginning of the movie, there's all of these thieves and they're talking about what they're going to do when they get this money. And everybody has different preferences. And then there's this one guy who steals the thieves' money, and he gets all the shit that they talked about getting because he doesn't have any opinions of his own. So sometimes I feel like that, where I will try on. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, do I like this? Do I like that? And Pole has enabled me to explore a little more breadth of
Mm-hmm.
things, of try on, like, do I feel comfortable, wearing pasties, or do I feel comfortable like dancing this way or that way? Or so it's definitely, I don't know that I'm still on my journey to body positivity, but I've definitely gotten a lot more inputs than I think I ever would
Yeah,
before.
I think it's very much the same for me. I always tell people that growing up as part of the LGBTQ community, especially as a gay men can be very fickle, especially on the gay scene, especially in the UK. And it's very much, you have to be thin and gorgeous, and they only like certain body types, and you have to go to the gym, and you have to do all these different things. It's very very toxic, very horrible. I think it's better now, but it used to be quite bad when I was young. And it really did create this toxic kind of like body image thing in my head, and I think that pole definitely helped me with that for sure. And I think pole is really good for that, in the sense that it is very, very good with regards to body positivity, I would say. And we have a very diverse group of people within the pole industry, and that's the great thing about it, I think, is that it does then make you feel like you're kind of part of something rather than being excluded from something, which is why I really like the pole industry. It's one of the things I do like about it. Now, obviously, you had a business before, and I didn't know that, so that's really interesting to know. Did that experience of owning that business, would you say it helped you in any way running this new business, the pole conventions, or would you say it's a completely different ball game?
I've learned a lot of what not to do,
Right. Okay.
which is sometimes useful. If you're not sure what to do, just try not to do the really bad things. I've I had a good basis for business, but I didn't. Running an event is different from the type of. I had a service business,
Mm-hmm.
so it was a visual communications company. So we had people who are graphic designers and editors and desktop publishers and things. So there's a level of business that's always the same, no matter what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. You have to have a budget, and you have to understand taxes and those sorts of things. But with PoleCon, I learned so much about, about running events and trying to manage the idea of community. And because we have such a diverse community, I've, tried to learn how to interact with different communities and how to provide a space that seemed fair. And I use that word very
Yeah.
lightly, but like fair and accessible to as many people as possible. And just being in the public eye more. In my old industry, they had an association, and so I eventually became head of the association. So I spent a little bit of time in the like public quote unquote industry eye where, people were I worked with a lot of old white
Right.
dudes, and there was always comments on what I was wearing and my shoes and how much jewelry I was wearing and, whatever. And so that was uncomfortable. But then moving to the pole industry, and the way that social media is set up and the generation is younger than I was used to dealing with, there's a lot more about being in the public eye and things that has been a big learning experience.
Yeah, and you mentioned about like the diversity of your event, and I have to say, from an outsider's point of view, obviously I can't speak on behalf of people who have been. It does look like you've managed to keep such a diverse crowd of people at the event. So congratulations on that. How many challenges would you say you faced when trying to ensure that the event was as diverse as possible? Has it been a hard journey? Like, I know obviously, and I say this because I've seen obviously little bits online about the just general dramas, the general online dramas, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But there's always someone moaning about something that the event didn't do or whatever. Has it been a long road to learning about the different groups that you should be serving and trying to make it accessible for everybody? Has it been quite hard?
Um, perspective is so interesting. I had somebody ask when we first started doing a youth showcase at PoleCon. So currently there's 19 showcases at PoleCon. So they're a mix of thematic showcases, so things that represent styles like contemporary, and then affinity groups that represent different communities within pole, like Black Girls Pole. And so when we first started the youth showcase, which is the under 18, someone asked, like, how can I have like under 18 on the stage at the same time as like the sexy people and the
Right.
floor humpers and whatnot? And I said that I try to treat everybody the same. It's the same stage. It's the same rules. There are deadlines. There are some things that we can't do because of the local laws or the venue restrictions. And
Is that things like getting full on nudity? Is that things like, yeah, we have that in the UK as well. Like some of the events, because it's like, if it's like a dance filthy competition, for example, a lot of the girls want to go down to pasty. So that means that we have to make sure that the venues that we're using for this have the licenses for us to be able to do that. So yeah, it's a nightmare. Hey, sorry, carry on. I was just more interested to see what you meant by that, but now I get it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's absolutely it. And funny story. I'm looking for a venue right now for PoleCon 2023. And for whatever reason, the past 2 years, we've had performers who performed with strap-ons. And hey,
So random.
what, like there was the one year where we had 3 inflatable penises on stage. So there's like a zeitgeist.
Why not?
That people, yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey, again, you do you, boo. Like I don't give a shit. But
Yeah.
I asked the venue because I asked about, can we get down to pasties or does it have to be like a bikini top? And I said, just because it's come up twice now, can the performers wear a strap on? And
I bet the venues are like, what the hell is going to happen at this event?
Yeah, they're I mean, and our group is always good. I mean, the pole dancers are just fun and joyful and we've
Right.
never had any like trash the hotel room kind of things where you hear about like, from I don't know, 80s rock bands or whatever. But
Yeah.
but that's so I do treat everybody the same. Like, do you want to wear a strap on because that's important to your performance? And do you have a little girl who's 5 years old who's going to dance to Moana? Like,
Right. But I mean,
do it.
I'm not being funny, but is something like that not easily fixed by just having the kids on first and then being like, okay, kids on first, then we'll do the contemporary, then we'll do the tricksy, then we'll do the sexy kind of after dark series at the end, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you know, if you're going to keep your kid around till the end of the show, then that's the choice that you make, obviously for your own child, of course. But then it kind of keeps everyone happy. But yeah, have you faced a lot of issues with trying to I don't even know how to word this. So obviously, like, so you've got Black Girls Pole, obviously a great group. I always see they put on a really good show at your events as well. They always put on an amazing show. It's always the videos that actually come up for me for PoleCon. It's the Black Girls Pole like group routines and stuff. So they always do an awesome show. So it's really good, obviously, that you've created a space for them. Are there any other groups that you would like to see more of that you struggle to sort of like be able to, like, for example, like wheelchair accessible venues and stuff? Are these considerations that you have to make?
Yes. I mean, there's so many things that I try to consider in terms of, how can we make the event accessible, and whether that's accessible from more, adaptive athlete, or the perspective of accessibility for cost. Um, One thing that I find as a challenge as a white lady is working. I don't want to start a showcase or curate a showcase that I shouldn't be curating. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to pick the performers for Black Girls Pole. I'm not.
right. But
No,
you don't do that, do you?
I
You don't.
absolutely do not.
No, no.
No.
Okay, so do you just give Black Girls Pole a slot and then you say to, it's Delijah that runs it, isn't it? And you just say, so Delijah, this is your slot. This is your time. Go for it. Is that how you run it?
Yes. And that's
Great.
something that I'm very careful about with the groups that are more less thematic and more the affinity group. So the next showcase that we're going to be debuting at PoleCon is, we have a name. It's the Latin Heritage Showcase. And
Okay.
this was something that I was very concerned about, what's the appropriate name, because there isn't currently a group like Black Girls Pole is a company, it's a social media, it's a
Sure.
thing similar to Dangerous Curves. This was a competition that Roz the Diva used to run, so it's a community. It's got a thing around it. There isn't currently a similar thing for folks who speak Spanish, who are in Spanish speaking countries, whether that's in Europe, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, whatever. So I had one person a few years ago say, well, there's Black Girls Pole, why isn't there, something for folks who are Latinas or Latinos, and I said, create one. Like, start one,
Yeah.
because I'm white. I shouldn't be doing that. So we had so many folks this year who were Spanish speaking, a lot of folks from Central and South America and the Caribbean
Mm.
who came. And I contacted someone that I know who is in that community, who owns a studio. And I said, can you help me? Because we need to represent this group, but I don't know what to call the group. I don't know who to talk to about the group, and I can't be making decisions about this showcase. So Jolene, she goes by the Puerto Rican, and she owns a studio in Puerto Rico. So she
Nice.
polled a bunch of folks from all these different areas. So not just the Caribbean where she's based, but Central South America, Europe, the US, to come up with the term Latin heritage. And I think that's great, because I don't want to start something and say, I don't know, we're going to call this the purple showcase, and everybody be like, well, purple to my group is offensive. It really should have been the blue showcase, and be like,
Right.
I didn't know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it's so I want to try to
It's
work
good
with.
in a way because it allows you to not pass the buck as such, but it allows you to be able to say, right, this is your space, so I want you to be making the decisions for it because it's not my place. So I really like that. What about disabled pole dancers? Have you got anything for the disability groups? Because I've noticed actually, so I did a feature on Pole Logs the other day about disabled aerialists, not just pole dancers. And we actually have a lot more now, you know, and obviously not all disabilities are visible as well. So it's there's definitely a more diverse group of disabled pole dancers out there. Do you have anything available for them at the moment?
We do. We debuted the Parapole showcase in 2019.
Nice.
And I'm using para from like Paralympics.
Sure.
And it does represent in the description of the showcase when people can apply, it does say, you know, invisible illness, chronic illness, you know, so it's more inclusive than maybe the typical definition of like para in terms of that athletic context.
Yeah. I can tell, obviously, by the way that you speak to me, that this is something that you're very, very conscious of in terms of who decides the names, making sure that the reason you called it para was because of this. Um, is this because of an experience in particular that's has something? I assume, obviously, there's been some sort of thing that's maybe happened that has made you be more conscious of this. Did something happen before where maybe someone has said, listen, this isn't correct, or something bad had happened in that kind of, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do, and the answer is honestly no.
Okay.
So this year, PoleCon, this was, even though we did have an event in 2021 with Omicron, and then the Omicron variant had started in that summer, and then we actually had a hurricane show up.
I've got to it's one of my questions to ask you is about the hurricane, you know, but yeah, sorry, carry on.
So 2022 was really the first year back for a lot of people in terms of PoleCon. Like, we do have folks who tend to come every year, and then we have new folks. So this year I got a lot of verbal feedback, and then some people writing very nice things on social media being like, this was the best ever. You've done the best job. Da, da, da. And thank you. Number one. Number two, I haven't done anything different. I haven't done anything different. I have made, you know, I added space between workshops. You know, that was about it. I did that was different.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people are more receptive to things. So in terms of that, you know, being very careful, I guess I've never felt like I've had a space where I felt accepted. So I always want to create a space where people feel okay, you know, and there's a level that I can't control. You know, somebody will always find something that doesn't work for them or they don't like or what have you. But I really try to be very careful about creating a space where somebody can go and say, I see myself. And I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but the showcases I started with versus now, but it's grown every year to try to represent. So when I think it was 2019, we debuted the Creepy Showcase as well. And the all things sort of, you know, dark
Creepy and weird.
heavy
Nice.
metal. And
yeah, that's cool.
yeah, and it came up because I was looking at applications, and there were a bunch of people that applied to different showcases in PoleCon that all, like, this theme was emerging, right? So I contacted them and I said, hey, do you all want to be part of a new showcase? Because clearly there's like a thing here that's bubbling up. So I try to be responsive to that, but just, I don't know. I just try to be very careful, but there's a really long way of saying no. There hasn't been one specific.
But I get it. I mean, I don't know if you find this. It's so difficult to serve every group.
Yeah,
that's the problem we have. Is so where do you or how do you draw the line with the event to be like, okay, we've got Black Girls Pole, we've got Parapolars, we're going to have the this showcase and the Latin showcase. And then so then you've got the showcase all set out, it's all done. Obviously the show can't go on forever. So then what happens when the LGBTQ plus, or there's a black men poll actually page now that I've seen on Instagram. What happens when they come and say, okay, we want a slot as well, and we want a slot, and then this, how do you ask them all to apply, and then you kind of each year try to change it up, or what is the answer without excluding people? It's such a difficult thing to do. How do you manage that?
So we do have a queer showcase at PoleCon.
Nice. Yeah, do you know what I said? I said that, and I was like, I'm 99% sure, because didn't you have that like quite early on?
Yes, relatively, and that was
Yeah.
one where someone in the queer community started a queer pole Facebook group,
Okay.
and they contacted me and said, would it be possible to have a showcase? And I said, as long as you curate it. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the way that the PoleCon showcases work, so there's 19 now, going to be 20, people apply for individual showcases. And so their showcases, the event starts Thursday night, and it's Thursday night, all day Friday, literally 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., all day Saturday, and a half day Sunday.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry, I think I've misunderstood. So this isn't an evening show. This is an all-day event Okay, sorry. I am comparing this as well, by the way, to thinking of it as being like a show and then an event. So is this like in the area where you've got all the vendors and stuff? You also have a stage there where people... Okay, great. Sorry. Now I understand what you mean. I was like, wow, this showcase must be going on forever. Okay, totally get what you mean. That's awesome. Love that.
Yeah, and just for the context, because some folks don't know, and I went to Kuwait to teach pole dancing earlier this year, and I was trying to explain the concept of a convention, and that word didn't resonate with them, but the word festival did. So it's more like a festival where you go, and so there's these showcases that are running, from Thursday night to Sunday, hours and hours and hours, hundreds of performers, like 300 plus performers. And at the same time, it's embedded in the vendor area. So this year we had like 40 something vendors. And we have included, I call them free, but they're included in your pass, seminars and workshops. So we had a seminar on how to be a sustainable pole dancer. So kind of like pole dancing meets environmentalism. And then you can get like a free yoga class, or we did a free like Reiki healing class. And at the same time, there's also paid workshops. So there's 3 pole workshops and then 2 non-pole, which could be handstands, contortion, what have you. So there's like 7 different things you could be doing at any given time at PoleCon. So it's kind of a lot.
Right. Hey babes, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to quickly come on and tell you about one of our podcast sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by Grip and Glow. Grip and Glow is one of my favorite products, and I'm not just saying that. I truly use this product all the time. This is great for people who actually suffer with dry skin. It gives you that nice sticky feeling. So when you're on like a summer's day and your skin feels super sticky and so grippy, like leg hangs are an absolute dream. This product will give you that grip any time of year. So it's an amazing product. I actually personally like to put a bit of dry hands or a similar product onto my legs first and then spray this on top. Oh, makes them perfect, like nice and tacky. Perfect. So go and check out Grip and Glow, and you can actually use my offer code POLOLS10 to get 10% off all your purchases on their website. So go and check out Grip and Glow. And you mentioned about festivals. We had an event that used to be here called Pole World Festival, and that really sadly stopped. It was actually a really good event, but I just don't think she was making any money from it. And now we know obviously about Pole Expo not existing anymore. What do you think has allowed PoleCon to see through all of these other events that have not made it through? What is the secret sauce that PoleCon has that the others didn't? Come on, this is your time. And don't be shy. Come on, I want you to big yourself up. What have you got that the others don't have? Because I think it's important to know, because people are going to listen to this, and I want them to know why PoleCon is so good, so that hopefully they'll one day think, you know what, I'm going to go to the US, I'm going to visit this event. It's survived lots of stuff. So, what is it about the event? Would you say the diversity is a good part of it as well?
So I could tell you. So I try to be a pretty honest, maybe blunt person sometimes. So I could say the diversity in the community, but the honest truth for anybody who thinks like I'm going to start a convention or a festival is that I had savings from my previous career and I spent all of it to keep this event running.
Right.
So I have moved because of PoleCon. I have sold all of and there used to be a rumor when I first started PoleCon that I was this rich lady who took over this event. And I just want to be really clear. And I got tons of receipts for people who were like, are you sure? I grew up poor. When my parents divorced, my mom and I were on food stamps and welfare, and I have worked very, very hard. I went to school on scholarship and loans, and I have busted my ass to make my own money.
But
Not
why
my
does it
partner.
matter? Do you not think that ever? Like, I just think, why does it matter? So even if you were some rich white lady that started an event, why does it matter so long as the event is what you want it to be? Why do people have to create a narrative? And you know why that is? It's because people are jealous that they aren't able to create an event like that. So they create this excuse that the reason you did it is because you're a rich white lady who managed to have loads of money who could just start this event. But actually what they don't like to hear is that actually it just took a hell of a lot of hard work, and that you've got the determination to do it. It really bugs me that people do that. Sorry, I had to just butt in there. I really hate when people do that. I'm just like, why do people always jump to the, oh, well, it's because of this, or, this group has only been successful because of this or whatever. It's like, no, don't dismiss it because you haven't managed to do the same. You just need to do better, and I'm sure you could do just as well, right? It's so weird. I don't know where this mentalities come from. And you just said about you've spent your savings. Now, I'm on social media. I've seen after some of the events that you've had drama. I saw there was a drama between two girls. One of them, oh, I can't remember what it was. Like one of them threatened to stab the other one or something at the event. And there was this big old drama about it. And I was like, whoa, I only saw part of it. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then I think actually it was Bentley Rebel and Delijah who got involved in it, and then people started going for them as well. And I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, I'm not commenting on this." I looked at that and I just saw, "Wow, this is a lot of drama." Like, and I can only imagine how emotionally taxing it is on you. So, and you spent all of your savings to save this event. Why would you do that for a community of people who are just trying to drag you down? It makes absolutely zero sense to me. So I need you to explain to me why you would want to do that.
Oh, I don't know. It is hard. So for anybody who wants to run an event, you need a lot of capital. Like you need a lot of capital. And by capital, I mean the fancy word for like, you need a shit ton of money.
Right.
And if you have your own money or somebody else's money, like you need more money than you expect, because it takes a while for people to believe, like our industry is growing, but we're still small.
Oh, we're such a small industry. So small.
It takes a while to get people to get on board with something. So that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is really trying to figure out how to manage the emotions around it, because I'm not going to lie, this whole event has been a huge emotional roller coaster. I mean, I've been doing this since I bought the event in 2014. So I've been, 8 years now of emotions, of trying to understand how to give people a space where they can, even for a few days, be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really comes from a place of like, I don't feel like I have that. So it would be really like, I don't feel like I had it growing up. I don't feel like I have it, as an adult. I'm still trying to find it. So it comes from this like real, actual, like not bullshit, but need to try to help people and to give them a space. And pole has given me some of that. The rest I need to go to therapy for, but
Yeah. Everyone needs therapy.
everybody needs real therapy. Pole dancing can help you, like, maybe open the door to therapy, but pole dancing is not therapy.
No.
That's too much to put on your instructor. They're not qualified to do that.
No. Yeah, but people still do it though. People do still expect
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's such a so much stress. And what do you get out of it? What like, sorry, this is sounding so negative. Obviously, I'm sure, like, you, and I hope that you get some sort of financial gain, obviously, from it. I praise God you do, or at least that you're now covering your costs. But you know, is there something non-financial that you would say is why you carry on? Like, you must get tons of messages afterwards, way more than what you get hate, I'm sure, of people saying how much they love your event and how it was such a great event. And these are the kind of things that really make it worth the while.
It took, I'm umming a lot. I think it's that pause for, like, how am I going to say this?
Yeah, don't
I don't
worry.
want to be like a Debbie Downer. You know,
No,
I
it's
want people to be
fine.
excited about the event. I do want to be honest, especially for people who are thinking, like, I could do that. And yes, you could. Let me tell you what you could be your story. Everyone will have a different journey. I did not make money on PoleCon until this year.
Okay.
So that's a lot of, working 10 jobs to try to make things happen. That's a lot of, my hard-earned money just being, whatever. And that was my choice. Like, I don't want this to be a sob story. Like, that was very much my choice, that I believed in this event, and I believed I could figure out that I could meet in the middle with figuring out how to get enough people and control costs and make it work. So it finally generated money. At this point, I do feel a lot of obligation to continue running this event. And I don't want that to sound shitty, but that is a lot of the truth. Is I've had a lot of people talk about, events close, and events close because the pandemic screwed a lot of people, period. There's not a huge margin on events at all.
No.
Even if you do make money, it's hard to make a living. You probably have to have another job. And then people just make different life choices. They decide to have a family, or they decide to move, or their passion lies somewhere else, and that's okay. So now it would just really suck for people not to have a space like PoleCon, because people fucking love it. Like, they do. Like, people do say very nice things, and just watching them at PoleCon run around like little crazy people. Like, I don't have, I'm not going to have human children. I have furry children.
Same.
I'm gesturing to my dog who's over here sleeping. But I feel like, my kids, like my pole kids, like these are folks that I feel like I'm a nurturing personality. So I want my kids to have I want them to have that experience, that the first PoleCon that I went to, I walked into it as an attendee and went,
yeah,
like, fuck, this is amazing.
And what was the first big pole event you went to? And I'm trying to segue here a little bit towards what kind of happened with Pole Expo. I don't know if there's any more that you know about it. I mean, I know that it stopped, and that was super sad, because that for me was the first expo I'd ever been to, because we didn't have anything at the time in the UK, and it was pretty awesome. I have to say, like, I can't even really say anything bad about it, because I used to really enjoy my time there. Does anyone know actually what happened to Pole Expo? No one knows.
No, I mean, when I first started PoleCon, when I took it over, not started it, but when I took it over, I contacted Fanya. I mean, I contacted everybody.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to make those connections and introduce myself and see if there was a way that we could work together. So Fanya did have a booth the first year for Pole Expo, or for a Pole Expo booth at PoleCon. And then I've been to a couple of Pole Expos, paid to have my flyer in the gift bag kind of thing. So, but no, other than that, I don't have a relationship with her, so I'm not sure
what happened to it. It's really sad, actually, because I knew Faunia for a long time. I'd actually love to have her on the podcast, to be honest, because I'd love to speak to her and kind of find out what's really going on in her life, because oh God, how do I word this? I've seen a lot online, as I'm sure you have, and I know during the pandemic, she said some things that a lot of people weren't really happy with, and I know a lot of the whole mask mandate, or there was a drama around that, and then obviously she cancelled the event, and I'd love to know kind of where it all not went wrong, but what happened, because she did run an amazing event. I went to it a couple of times and it was great. I loved it. I always had such an amazing time. It was one of the events of the year that I really look forward to. So when it all stopped, I was a bit like, oh, wonder what happened. So that's why I asked. I just wondered if you knew. So do you find now that PoleCon maybe sounds terrible, but do you find PoleCon maybe does a little bit better because there's only one event now?
I think it's always been different.
Right.
The impression that I always got from Pole Expo was that it was a place for the really cool kids,
That's why I
like
went
those
there, you
kids,
see,
like,
because I'm so cool.
exactly, because you're the cool kids. Um,
I wish I was. I wish I was cool. I'm so uncool.
and I think PoleCon, so I feel like there's a different, I don't know, there's a different level or expectation where it's like maybe it was like people who are really into competing or really into the career of pole, where PoleCon, I've heard it described by other people as a family reunion. And that kind of encompasses everybody.
Mm,
You've got your like crazy uncle, and you've got your, grandma who's losing her mind, and you've got the kids running around, and so it's a little bit more just like, there's no theme, there's just like show up and you'll probably find somebody who's like you.
right. Okay, I see. So, what is the biggest struggle that you would say you have with running such a large event? What's the biggest issue that you face as running Polex? Ugh. Well, now we've said Pole Expo, it's going to be stuck in my head. What's the biggest struggle that you have with running PoleCon?
One of the big things that I'm trying to work on is I care a lot about anything that I do. Like, I tend to, everything to me is like urgent and important. There's nothing that's like, oh, I can slack off on that. Like, my whole life is just in that urgent and important
Yeah.
box. So I'm trying to learn to take some of my emotions out of this event, because if somebody says something like, we do a survey after, I keep saying we, it's just
Yeah.
me behind the computer. It's just me. At the event, I have an amazing group of folks who do support me live. But most of the time it's just me. And I read the survey, and sometimes people say things that I'm like, oh God, like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Is it
And I
anonymous?
know that, yeah, they're
So it
anonymous. They're
means that
anonymous.
people are even
So
harsher, right? Because they know it's like not attached to anyone's name.
that is a big thing, and that I think you get in social media too. Is everybody's got very strong opinions and
They have?
or
I've never
preferences.
noticed. People with opinions on
I
social media. Colleen, you must be joking. Surely not. People, let's be clear, like people are vile on social media sometimes. It's just I just get shocked by some of the things that people say to each other. And you know what really makes me laugh actually with the social media thing is that people say these things, but they would never say that to their face. Never. If they saw it, these people that are arguing about PoleCon or whatever, if they saw each other at the event, they probably just wouldn't even talk to each other. They would never go up to each other and say these things. But people get super confident on social media, whereas there's nothing that I wouldn't say to people on social media that I wouldn't. I have a rule, like if I'd say it to their face, I will say it on social media. But if I wouldn't, and I wouldn't have the guts to say it to them, then I just won't say anything at all. And I think that actually works out quite well because it means that you kind of restrict yourself from saying anything if that's a bit too much. But yeah, I love how people like to hide behind that survey monkey without their email on it. Do you know what I mean? I don't like that. So what sort of feedback is it that you're getting from the events? Does it just tend to be very small, petty little things, or is there one thing that people would really love to see?
Every year it's different, and sometimes there is really great information or things that I wouldn't know, because I can only be in one spot during PoleCon. So I'm like, oh, it was good to know that. The current challenge that we're having is really just figuring out how to do the food as best as possible.
The what? Sorry, the
So
food.
The food, yeah. So I
Oh,
feed people
wow.
at
Oh, there's
PoleCon.
food included? Wow, okay.
Mhm.
I'm really gonna have to come soon because once this whole COVID stuff calms down a bit more, I'm definitely coming. I'm really sad I couldn't come the last time to be honest, because I was really looking forward to it. But it's yeah, hopefully we're on the right road now. So okay, keep talking. There's food now. This is sounding more appealing to me. But every moment you talk, it sounds even better and better. So when you say you feed people, you literally what, lunch and dinner, or are you just like maybe a snack during the day kind of situation?
So there's lunch provided on Friday and Saturday, and then there's a breakfast on Sunday.
Wow. Oh, nice. And then in the
Yeah.
evenings, because like I said, I've not been to your event before, so I don't know. Again, at Pole Expo, there's lots of restaurants around, obviously, because we were in Vegas,
Mhm.
right? So we used to just, many of us used to kind of go with groups, and then we'd be like, right, this evening we'll go to this restaurant. Always Cheesecake Factory because we don't have that here and it's amazing. So we'd go to Cheesecake Factory or wherever that we wanted to go, and then we'd go and see a show afterwards. What's the vibe like where you are? Where are you actually located? Is there restaurants and stuff around?
So PoleCon moves around every year, which
Oh, okay.
is great because that means that maybe one year it's going to be more affordable for somebody to go. Maybe they can drive
Hmm.
there or what have you. So, but it's challenging for me as an event
Yeah,
organizer.
that sounds like a logistical nightmare because you don't know the venue every year. So it means you're having to learn from the beginning every year. Oh, wow. I take my hat off to you. What a stress that must be. But these are the little things that I don't feel people take into appreciation, that if small little things do go wrong, well, this is the cost of trying to make it accessible to lots of different people. I think that's great that you do that. So that's super amazing. Where is the next one out of interest?
Uh,
Have you announced
I
yet?
I have not, and so you usually to keep like the hype going, I announce the next year's PoleCon at PoleCon, and
Okay.
this year I did not, and everybody thought I was being very like cagey or trying to create I don't know hype or something, and no, the truth was if I only held this event because so many people pushed their tickets because of the pandemic. So I had about 100 people push their tickets from some from 2019 all the way to 2022. So if this event didn't make money, then I couldn't run another PoleCon. I'm
Right.
out of savings. I'm
Sure.
out. So I needed to wait and see how it went. And so I'm looking now and I'm hoping to announce by September. But
Awesome.
it's tough to.
What was the last locations out of interest? Like, what sort of places have you been?
So mostly East Coast. We've been to Atlanta twice. We've been to Orlando. We've been to New Orleans twice. We've been to Texas. We were in Fort Worth, which is just the city next to Dallas. And then we've also been to Denver. So that was the furthest west we'd been. Uh,
Okay, can I ask so this might be, if anyone who is American is listening to this and if this offends them, I apologize right away. So you just mentioned Texas. How do you get on with running things like the LGBTQ showcases and stuff in places like that? I've been told though that Texas, because it's such a big place, it's not all anti-gay in Texas, right? It's just certain parts of it. Is that right?
yeah, it's so we usually don't have any sort of a problem with venues. We're with
Great.
with that. The lately with some of the changes that we've had politically in the United States, one of my staff members is trans. And so when I say staff, like my volunteer staff who assists during
Yeah.
the event, the this year I could pay them, so that was great. So
Yay.
not volunteer no more. The So one of my trans staff members has been very vocal about we need to be concerned about where PoleCon can and should go. And I'm of two minds of this because while I agree that we need to go to places that are supportive of women and the LGBT community, I also think it's important to go places where maybe women and the LGBT community aren't supported so that we can provide that support.
Yeah.
So it's
Such a tough
tough.
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like the whole Roe versus Wade things.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the whole thing. Well, it could be nice to provide a safe space for women in those areas where that law is enforced. Again, I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know enough about it, but it's that's a really tough one. But I took what your staff member has said. I agree. So it's all been mainly east. Do you think so? That mean like LA and that sort of way? You haven't done that way yet?
Not in my tenure. In the original tenure, the PoleCon was held once in the LA area.
Okay.
Originally, I stayed away from the West because Pole Expo was in Vegas, so it was sort of. I thought like I don't want to. I
Right.
don't want to encroach, you know. And now it's become more of a cost issue. My
It's more
stage,
expensive
huh?
that way.
Um,
Is it more expensive that way?
it is because all of my staff is on the East Coast, so flying people, moving all my equipment is here on the East Coast, so it costs me more to go out there.
Right.
There's certain places too that just are better set up. Like for instance, Orlando, because of Disney World and Universal, they have hotels that are appropriately sized for the space that we need. So Orlando can be a really good place for us. It's
Right.
easy for people to fly into. There's international airports. They now, however, have been having some challenges with, the LGBT community and women in terms of laws. So,
Right.
it's yeah.
Oh. What about so? Have you considered Vegas now that Pole Expo isn't there? Because Vegas was. I only say this. Do you know what? This is just people in the US probably are like, oh no, don't go to Vegas. I think the only reason I loved it in Vegas because as a tourist to the US, someone who was coming from the UK, Vegas it was very much a killing two birds with one stone
Yeah.
for us because we were not only coming to Pole Expo, we were also going to see Vegas. That was really cool. And I think LA as well probably is similar. It means that people could go to see LA and they'd be able to go to, you know what I mean? Whereas I don't know as much about New Orleans and places like this or what's there, but I think as the typical person from the UK who doesn't know anything about the US, the first places we think of are sort of like New York. We think of Las Vegas, LA. So these are the sorts of like big places. So I'd love to see it in one of those places again. So yeah, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, Colleen.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's next for you? What's coming up for? What's your dream for PoleCon? International PoleCon, maybe?
I mean, maybe. I have a friend who is building a dance studio in London right now.
What's
So
the name?
her name is B, but she's not well known in the dance community. So she's actually going to be. She just loves dance. So
Right.
her goal is she's going to take like a back seat and be like the business person, and then have this beautiful dance space. So
Nice.
so not pole dance, just
Right. Okay.
stage,
I wondered why
stage
you didn't
dance.
say pole dance. Yeah, I wondered why you didn't say pole. I was like, does she mean dance or pole? Okay. So yeah, maybe a London event coming up soon would be cool. Well, I'd love to see an event here. I think it'd be so awesome. Like I said, there was an event here, X Pole at one point. I know they talked about doing an event in London and it didn't go ahead. I can't even remember. I think they actually even went as far to selling tickets and stuff to it, but it just
Mm.
didn't get the response they'd hoped for. So I can't remember. It was so many years ago, but yeah. Well, I would love to see a PoleCon here, so please do that. I see you're in a studio now. Is this your studio?
Yeah, this is my house. So this is my garage that we
Oh,
converted
okay.
to a studio space. So
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, so this isn't a pole studio. It's like a home pole studio.
yes, I mean I teach out of here. I do a lot of virtual classes.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, so you still have students go there, but it's at your home.
Mhm.
That's pretty awesome. How many poles do you have in there?
So I actually have two. I've taken one down, but I have
Okay.
two poles, and then I have a lyra. I also teach lyra, and my focus right now is mobility. So I teach a lot of mobility classes, and I have a mobility. My book is coming out in September, October. So.
About mobility.
Mhm.
Oh, nice. What prompted this?
So with my motorcycle accident, I have a lot of I have a lot of plates and screws, and I have a lot of challenges. So when I was learning pole, it was not just learning the move and becoming less sedentary, but I have a lot of chronic issues because of my accident, a lot of
Right.
chronic pain, a lot of things don't work right. So I had to go on a journey to learn how to teach myself how to pole. And I've just discovered that more and more people are coming to pole with different chronic stuff, whether it's,
Uh-huh.
an acute injury or just years of sitting in front of a desk. So I've developed some mobility programs from what I've learned. And then my book, Mobility for Pole, is kind of a gathering of all the research that I've learned to try to help people to move better in general, but then also, my demographic being pole dancers.
Nice. And that accident happened when you were 19. Do you mind if I ask how old you are now?
I'm 40.
Okay, so yeah, well, technically it wasn't really that long ago in terms of injuries, because obviously injuries can take years and years to heal, and you're still feeling the effects even in your 40s.
Yeah, yes. I have a lot of chronic pain. I have a lot of I don't have a lot of mobility in my ankle from scar tissue buildup from the plates and screws and things, and it's just affected my entire kinetic chain. So my whole right side of my body twists a little bit.
Mm,
So I've
yeah.
been working on positively impacting that.
I think that's an awesome thing as well, actually, because I don't know if you noticed this, but I think in pole, we definitely focus on extreme flexibility and not so much on mobility.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's never about, oh, I need to mobilize my hips. It's like, I need the splits and I need them
Yeah.
now because I want to do a jade split. But actually, mobility is super important, especially for prehab. So yeah, I love that. So when did you say that's going to be available?
So September, October, I'm going to start pre-orders next month for the book.
Nice. Well, anyone who's listening, make sure you go to Colleen's page and check out this. So, can you give us just a rundown of how people can follow you, where they can, sign up for the pre-orders? Just give me a little blurb on where people can find you, the PoleCon page, all of your social medias. Let's go.
Sure. So PoleCon, we are poleconvention.com. And you can find us on Instagram at INTL, so like Intel Pole Convention, or just search PoleCon, it comes right up. My personal page is on Instagram, it's at Colleen Jolly. My website is colleenjolly.com. And I also run the International Pole Industry Association, which is our first trade association for the pole community. It focuses on pole businesses. So if you're looking to run a pole business or you do run a pole business, there's a ton of free resources, everything from like why you need a contract to how to figure out how many poles fit in your space to what's the difference between hiring a contractor and an employee. It's a little more US based in terms of information like laws, but there's still a lot of information that's applicable for international folks as well. And that is under poleassociation.org.
Amazing. Well, if you're listening, make sure you go and check all these pages out. And I'm definitely looking forward to when I eventually get to come to PoleCon. And I just want to say thank you for running such an awesome event for our community and just for all the hard work that you do, even through obviously all the crap, I'm just going to call it that you have to deal with. And I know you have to deal with so much. So thank you for always being, I always see your comments and I'm just like, you are so good at having a professional head on. Oh, I admire you. I bow to you because I tell you now, I try my hardest to, and sometimes I really struggle. So yeah, I bow to you on that, and you're doing such an amazing job. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And yeah, I hope I'll get to see you very, very soon.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. And thank you. I'm always learning and trying. So I hope I can help somebody in a positive way. So
yeah, no worries at all. See you very soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments on YouTube if you enjoyed it. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please give me a 5-star rating. I'd really appreciate that. Until next time. Mwah.
That was all the tea that you can get this week. Join me next time